What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Shaw Sports Talk. On today's episode, we're bringing in our boy, Steele Chambers, to preview some of the biggest college football games coming up this weekend. Let's dive into it. Steele, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself again to everybody?
What's up? My name's Steele Chambers, current NFL free agent, and used to play for the Buckeyes.
All right, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and preview some of these big time college football games coming up this weekend. And the first game I want to start off with, because we both played at this place, is Notre Dame. Texas A&M is visiting Notre Dame, and I want to get your initial thoughts on the game.
I'm not a big fan of either team, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like Texas A&M is somewhat of a cultish place. They got those weird rallies on Fridays, but I mean, the atmosphere is going to be great. You got two ranked teams. The Notre Dame environment is spectacular. It's probably like a top three place that I ever played at, and I think it's going to be a good game overall.
Perfect. Now, you talked about it being a top three place you ever played at. I would say it was a top three place I ever played at as well. What kind of stood out to you about playing there? Did you think it was loud, just the overall vibe? What was it like when you're pulling in on the Ohio State bus getting ready to play? Because when you played them, I mean, that was a huge game. Both teams were really good at the time.
Yeah, dude, that was big. I mean, the environment, I don't want to throw shade towards the shoe, but I mean, the environment for having like 40K less people is like up there with the shoe and like places like that. And then they had a great light show in the fourth quarter that kind of gives you chills a little bit. And I mean, especially since it was such a close game, like the crowd really like played a part in that entire game.
No, I agree with you. I remember one thing that stood out to me is when we were playing them. It was a pretty highly ranked game between us and USC and Notre Dame when we played them, and they played shipping up to Boston right before the opening kickoff, and that was probably the most
Mm,
hype I've ever been before a game. I mean,
mm.
I was ready to run through a brick wall, but then we go out there and we got whooped. Unlike your guys' outcome, we got a little bit whooped.
Mm.
But we're gonna move
California
on. We're
boys
not gonna
couldn't
talk
take it.
about that. All right, kind of looking at the
Couldn't
odds
take it.
here, looking at DraftKings, looking at Sports Fanatics, whatever you want to call it. The over under in total points is set at 50 and a half, and Notre Dame is 6.5 point favorites. Do you think Notre Dame covers this spread, and do you think the game goes over or under the 50 points?
I think Notre Dame covers. I think that they're still trying to build right now. They got a new quarterback in the system, but I think they're starting to get their footing a little bit. Texas A&M, I just don't think they've looked clean the past couple weeks, and their quarterback, he's got a lot of hype behind him, but I don't know if that's true talent, if that's really just how he plays all the time. But I mean, I would say that Notre Dame probably covers.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I really like Coach Mike Elko down at Texas A&M. I'm not sure on Marcel Reed. We played him last year in the bowl game. Wasn't really impressed by him. Now he's got a lot of talent. He can really run around and scoot around. I think
Exactly. I just don't know how he can facilitate like a game. Like he makes big plays, but I don't know if he's just a quarterback. Like
no, I agree. I agree with you. I think it's going to be hard for him, especially Texas A&M. I mean, this is going to be a different environment. Yes, SEC's got great environments, but Notre Dame's kind of its own unique little thing, and I think it's going to
mm,
be really hard for them to go and play at Notre Dame. Plus, I think Coach Freeman is one of the best coaches in college football, and I don't see them losing twice or having multiple losses this year with kind of
dude,
his.
I'll admit if Coach Freeman was there like during like the recruiting process, like as I was coming up, that would kind of make it a whole nother story.
And they got the go, and they got the goat, Coach Washington.
Coach Al Washington right there.
I
Yeah,
think
dude.
he's coaching the D line. So we're in agreement. We think Notre Dame covers the spread. Now over under 50.5 points.
Mm. I don't believe in hitting unders. Give me the over on this one.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hit the under. I think Notre Dame's gonna come out physical. I think Texas A&M's gonna have a chip on their shoulder. So you're going with the over. I'm going with the under. We'll see what happens. All right, Steele. Moving on. Next game I want to look at is the USF Bulls taking on the Miami Hurricanes. Listen, USF's off to a really hot start. They whooped Boise State and they did their thing in the swamp, getting a W over Florida. Kind of want your initial thoughts on this game. So let's hear it.
I think it could be a sneaky great game. I mean, you got USF. For me, I think they're my contender to make the playoffs out of the American. playing good ball. They proved themselves against the right team in Florida. And then Miami, I love college football whenever the Miamis and the Florida States are kind of like back in the conversation of being in big games. Because I mean, growing up, those were teams that I looked to. Those are teams that I love to watch. So seeing Miami do their thing, kind of get back to the greatness that was the early 2000 Miami's. That's a little crazy statement, but you know what I mean. I think it's going to be a really good game between them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, listen, there's been a lot of talk about the U being back. You kind of just hit on this. We've been hearing the U's been back for a couple of years now. Do you think they're really back? And then what do you think about Carson Beck?
I'm gonna retreat from what I just said there a little bit. The U's not back, but they're certainly on their way to being back. Carson Beck, I've never been a fan of him because a Georgia guy. I still have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth with Georgia in general. But it seems like he's just playing a lot more loose, playing a lot more free. It feels like he's having fun playing football again, and I think that's kind of translating to his play on the field. He looks like he's having a good time slinging the ball around, and then they got athletes all over the place that are going to help him. So I think he's elevating Miami's game, and then Miami overall is elevating his game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, I kind of talked to some people about Carson Beck and what I thought about him, and I felt like I can kind of relate with Carson Beck because he played at the University of Georgia, which is a big time program, as we both know. And I played at the Ohio State University, and then I played in some games, and I decided to transfer and go to another pretty big program in USC. And he decides to transfer, he plays at Georgia, decides to transfer, and goes to Miami. And I kind of talked about how when I transferred, there was two kind of things that were always on my mind. And one, it was just kind of proving, all the people wrong, all the doubters wrong. And then two, just kind of learning from my mistakes at Ohio State and being the best version of myself. And when I watch Carson Beck play now, I totally agree with you. I think that he looks loose and I think he looks calm out there. And I think it's kind of a combination of two things. I think he's really learned from his mistakes that he made at Georgia, but also, let's be honest, Georgia, like Ohio State, has some crazy, crazy fans. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
Miami's fans are like, but USC has crazy fans, but they're not necessarily like Ohio State's fan, which kind of allowed me to relax a little bit and play a
Mhm.
little bit better. And I think Carson Beck's probably doing the same thing. So I think we're in agreement. We both really like what we're seeing out of Carson Beck. All right, so we're both in agreement with Carson Beck and kind of seeing how he's playing. We think he both looks really good. Next, let's move on to the betting odds. I think this is really going to surprise you, Steele, because it really surprised me. They got Miami as 17.5 point favorites, and the over/under is 56 and
Jesus.
a half points. I'll go first because you went first on Notre Dame. I think USF's a really good team. I think they got a great
Mhm.
coach in Alex Schoolish. I think he's going to have his guys ready. They're going to be super fired up for this. They just beat Florida. They want to be the team in Florida. I don't think they're going to win because I think Miami's just going to get the best of them. But there's no way I see them losing by more than 17.5 points.
No, dude.
I
I
have
see this game. I see this game going down in the fourth quarter. I don't know about last drive kind of thing, but I mean, it's going to be in the last 5 6 minutes where a team's going to separate. But I wouldn't have 17. I think that's a little disrespectful to USF and just how they've been playing all year.
no, we're in agreement. Now, over under 56 and a half. That's a lot of points. You taking the over.
That's oh dear
And you can't
heavens.
just say, "Oh, I'm not taking the under. I'm taking the over," because I'm an over type of man. You got to think of
Well,
that.
I put myself in a position where I have to take every single over,
Yeah, you did. You
and
have.
I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to take the over.
All right, I'm going to do the same thing.
I'm going to stick to my guns.
I think USF's got a great coaching staff, and I think Corey Hetterman down in Miami is a great defense coordinator. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I don't see it going over 56, so I'm going to stick with my under there. Okay, moving on. All right, moving on to our next game. We got the Clemson Tigers visiting the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Kind of your initial thoughts again and how you see this one going overall. I'll just give you the numbers real quick so we can get right into our hot topic for this game. Clemson's 3 point favorites on the road and the over-unders at 52 points. So how do you see this one going?
You might think it's a little surprising. I personally had this as a possibility for game of the week, and I think this is the big upset of the week. I think Clemson, they're just coming off just 2 weeks, week one of just not performing against LSU, taking that heartbreaking loss, and then the second week just not really following up with a dominant performance like you'd expect out of a team with the caliber of Clemson. And then you've got Georgia Tech. I feel like they're always a sneaky team out of the ACC. You got Hayes King that just kind of it's hard to really game plan for a guy that can run so well on the ground and then can also throw the ball. So I think this is the really sneaky upset of the week.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Georgia Tech has been playing some really good ball over the last couple years. I love Haynes King. I think he's as good as it gets. Now I kind of want to put you on the spot. Georgia Tech's run scheme always sticks out to me. They do a lot of gap
Mm.
scheme, got a lot of guys pulling. What kind of challenges does this present for a linebacker like yourself? And some teams just go straight downhill, not a lot of movement, but Georgia Tech's got guys pulling all over the place. Plus with a dual threat quarterback, just kind of walk everybody through how this can present challenges for a linebacker.
It definitely does. I feel like there's definitely just preparation on the front end of it, and then once you're in the game, it's just kind of anticipation. Then you got to react fast because I mean, with gap schemes, if you're that front side linebacker where a puller's coming up to you, you got to meet him in the hole. You got to muddy up the entire look for the quarterback, running back, whoever's got the ball. And then on the backside, you got to help your front side linebacker out. You got to be able to get over that block because they're going to try to seal you off. So I think linebacker play is huge whenever you've got a gap scheme team, and I think that's going to be a huge factor in I guess Clemson's defense trying to just stop that running attack of Georgia Tech.
No, I agree. And the safeties are going to have to be willing to stick their nose in there and get dirty
Oh yeah.
themselves. So we're in agreement. I think we both see Georgia Tech pulling this thing out. Now that brings up the question. Dabo Swinney, he's a great coach, even legendary, but Clemson just kind of been struggling the last couple of years. What's kind of your thoughts on him overall? And if they do lose to Georgia Tech, is he officially on the hot seat? And is he ultimately going to get fired at the end of the season if he loses this game and then maybe one more? Just talk about Dabo Swinney a little bit.
It's a hard subject because I mean Dabo is just creating nothing but excellence over there at Clemson. I mean he's won them national championships. They're always in the conversation for playoffs, but now it's just he's having trouble adapting to this new reality of college football where you got NIL, you got the transfer portal being just a huge factor in things, and he just hasn't adapted like all the other coaches have. And it's not like he just struggles with it. It's just he kind of gets stuck in his own way. He goes out and says, "Oh, we want to be a team of guys that we recruited that are true to Clemson." And he's just kind of unwilling to just take that step into the unknown and like tap to the transfer portal. And I mean, that's huge. Like you look at Ohio State last year, you had a bunch of guys who contributed immensely that were from the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So it's I think hot seat's kind of crazy because I mean it's Dabo Swinney. You got
Right.
guys like Ryan Day vouching for him, so it could be. I don't know how crazy the Clemson fans are, but if they're out of the playoffs, then I think that's a discussion that might be had.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And kind of, I always think that football is a game, play calling and kind of recruiting in college game is it's always evolving and you got to be willing to
Right.
change. And kind of we saw this with Oregon. We're not going to get into it, but just want to bring this up. We saw this with Oregon and Oklahoma State. I didn't really see exactly what the Oklahoma State coach, but he talked about how they paid for the guys on the roster. And then Lanning came back and said, "Well, we want to win, and then if you want to win in today's age, you got to be willing to pay." And I agreed with them. And then he used that as fuel, and they went and hung up 69 on Oklahoma State. Beat the crap out of them. But that we're in agreement with Clemson. We're in agreement with Dabo Swinney. The game's evolving, and he's got to get with the picture, and he's not. And if he doesn't, hopefully they give him one more year. But I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's been
But
kind
I
of.
mean, dude, there's a world where they go out and they compete, they make
Oh
it to
no,
the Final
absolutely.
Four, that they win it, and then at that point you're like, okay, like he might be a little off his rocker and just different from everybody else, but what he's doing is producing. So I mean,
No, yeah.
anything could happen, dude. College football is just absolutely wild.
No,
So you
absolutely.
never
And I'm
know.
pulling for him. Like you said, you've heard great things about Dabo as a person and a coach. I've heard great things about him. So I'm definitely pulling for him. I want him to stay. But I am, I see things a little bit more negatively than you might.
I guess.
If things don't go right for him, it's going to be tough for him. But overall, we're in agreement with him in this game. We see the Yellow Jackets pulling it out. Okay, Steele, moving on to the next game. We got the Crimson Tide taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin's on the road in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a tough game. Let me give you some numbers, and we can go from there. Alabama's opening up as 21-point favorites, and the over-under is at
Whew,
40.5 total points. Your initial thoughts and how you see this one going?
whew. I mean, is it 21?
21 points.
I guess I haven't been keeping up with Wisconsin. I don't know where they're at nowadays, but I mean, I think for Alabama to just sort of ward off the haters for now until they have a big game, I think they need to cover. Because I mean, there are things being questioned about Alabama that it's almost like a cardinal sin to be questioned as a football player. They're questioning stuff like effort. Just do they like give a shit factor, like Coach Mick would always say. They're questioning big things that are very concerning to hear, like for a football team, and especially with the departure of Nick Saban. Those aren't things that you want to hear from a football program. So I think they just really need to just show a little bit of dominance this weekend.
So you see them covering that spread.
I see him covering this spread. I don't see us living in a world where Alabama just doesn't have a little bit of dominance in them, man. I don't see it.
No, no, no. I'm going to disagree. I think Wisconsin, I kind of watched them probably a little bit closer than you, only because one of my best friends, Tackett Curtis, Tackett, he visited,
Linebacker.
right? Yeah,
Good dude.
yeah, he's starting at Wisconsin now and doing his thing. And that defense they shut out, for what this is worth, they shut out Miami of Ohio 17-0, and then
Wow.
Middle Tennessee, they beat somebody.
Wow.
What I'm getting to is
Mhm.
their offense is really atrocious if we're being honest, but their defense looks really, really good. And if there's one thing I am certain on, I do see this game going under 48.5 total points. It's kind of my theme all day. It's going to be tough for them. I'm not saying Wisconsin's going to win. I'm with you. I think Alabama, they got to have a chip on their shoulder. So I think Alabama, but I do see them covering 21 points. So Alabama wins, but Wisconsin covers the 21 and it goes under 48.5. Now, getting into Coach DeBoer, I kind of want to get your thoughts, and before you go, I'll kind of start with this. Um, I think SEC ball. I think there's a couple programs that are just different than everywhere else, and
Mhm.
I think that's like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, USC. Those kind of programs. When you take a job like that or play for a school like that, the intensity and everything is ramped up. And Coach DeBoer has done a lot of good things over his career. He's won everywhere he's been. Washington, he took him to a national championship, which is amazing. But I don't know if he was ready to come to a program like Alabama. And I'm not sure how well he's handling this pressure. And there's one thing that kind of stands out to me, and I want to get your opinion on it, is in their most recent game, he's kind of on the sideline. They should have the camera's on him. He doesn't know the camera's on him, but he kind of looks defeated. His team's winning or whatever. He looks kind of defeated, looks kind of, upset, really just no emotion being shown. And
Mhm.
one of his players walks up to him and is firing him up. And to me, that's pretty concerning. And then when you look at his press conferences, he kind of seems, and I think all these coaches, I think Coach Day went a little bit through this. At first, the pressure is kind of shocking and it's hard to handle. And it seems like he's having a tough time handling it. But I think he's a great coach. I think he's a good dude. But I am concerned that maybe the pressure is getting to him. So we'll see. But what do you kind of think of Coach DeBoer when
I
you?
mean, it's one of those situations where you're going to one of those five-star programs, and then just the added fact that you're following Nick Saban of all people. I mean, that's just such a daunting task, just in general. And I mean, it's not like he's having winning seasons. I mean, he barely missed the playoffs last year, but the expectations of that place is so high compared to other places that I mean, you have a winning season over in Washington, people are praising you, and now he's got to get used to the fact that if you don't make the playoffs, if you lose more than 1, 2 games, then I mean they're going to threaten to banish you.
Yeah,
So it's such a hard situation to step in, and I mean sometimes you got to look at the man outside of the coach. He's going through a lot. He's definitely just taking the brunt of just all the hate that's coming out of Tuscaloosa, and it sucks. But you are the head coach of Alabama football. You've got to present yourself in a way that that stuff doesn't shake you. That stuff isn't going to make you rattle, especially during a football game. So, I mean, I feel for the dude, but at the end of the day, yeah, you can't have that image of you on the sideline having to get pumped up by one of your players. You can't do that during a football game.
yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, when you look at this team playing, you talked about their effort and give a shit factor. And I didn't watch all their second game, but certainly watching the game against Florida State, I mean, they look like they didn't respond to adversity well, in my opinion. And I talk about, when I look at Alabama, we're talking about guys like C.J. Mosley, Julio Jones, and those are just two guys, for example. And yes, they're very talented, but at the same time, I mean, these guys are alpha dudes leading the
Mhm.
way. And I don't know if Alabama really has that. They have talented players. They always have talented players, but I just don't see any dogs out there when I'm watching them. I don't see anybody, correcting their guys, getting their guys lined up, getting on teammates' asses. I just don't see a lot of that. And, with Nick Saban, he kind of set that expectation. And, and I just don't think I'm just not seeing it. So are you?
No, yeah, because I mean, yeah, they have talent, but I mean, there comes a time in any sort of football dynasty where that talent might be just a little watered down, like in specific years. I feel like that's one of those years.
Yeah,
And then in those times, you have to have those alpha dogs, those just dudes out there that are just pushing the envelope and just trying to get guys on the right path. And I don't think they have that. I mean, their best player, he's a TikTok guy. I
yeah,
don't as I just it's a I feel like it's a different vibe over there. I don't know because I'm not actually there with them.
yeah.
I'm not in Tuscaloosa, but just from an outsider's view, I know I don't want to just like throw like assumptions at them, but I just don't feel like they have those dogs there to help them get over this hump that they have.
All right, moving on to our last game. We got the Georgia Bulldogs visiting the Tennessee Volunteers or Vols or whatever the hell they call them. The over-unders at 50.5 points. And Georgia on the road in Tennessee is actually
Mhm.
4-point favorites, which kind of surprises me.
Mm.
Give me everything you know about this game and talk about how you see this one going.
Oh, I mean, you've got Georgia going into Rocky Top. That's a beautiful. If you have you ever been to Rocky Top?
I've never been. Don't know
Dude,
anything.
it's so much fun. I mean, it's beautiful over there. They're chanting the Rocky Top Tennessee song. You're right on the water. It's just a great place to play, especially for it's an afternoon game, no night game, I guess. Either way, great environment. I'm really interested to see how Georgia does. They've got what I would consider an inexperienced quarterback who has played in some big games, but he hasn't been the dude that he's forced to be now. So I would just like to see if they're that top team that they usually are. And then if you're Tennessee, I think you've got to play fast paced ball. I think Joey Aguilar has to go out, throw for 350, 400 yards and make this a barn burner. I think if they have a chance, because I think Georgia, they've got dudes, they've got a great defense. Their offense is going to get the job done usually when it has to. So I think the Volunteers, they've got to go out and they've just kind of got to light up that scoreboard if they want to win.
No, no, I'm with you. I think this game's going to go over. I'm assuming you think it's going to go over as well. And kind of with Georgia, I don't know if in a shootout in recent years. First off, I don't know if they would have been, their defense would allow them to get involved in a shootout. But if this thing does go to a shootout this year, I think they will be able to kind of keep pace. And that's really because one of my good teammates and one of my friends, Zachariah Branch, who was over with the Trojans. He transfers over for the Georgia Bulldogs, him and his brother Zion, who's doing his thing on the defensive side. But he just brings an explosive element to them. So if this thing gets in a shootout, I think Georgia's going to be able to kind of play. But I do agree with you. I think Tennessee has to light up the scoreboard for them to win. And I'm going to pick Georgia. I think Georgia's tough. I think Kirby Smart. We're not really taught. Georgia's always talked about, obviously, but Georgia
Yeah.
talked about as kind of one of the top teams this year. At least I haven't really heard too much about them. I mean, too much hype. I mean, but
I think this year it could be a little different. I mean, especially for offense, I feel like the past like 2 years, especially, they just haven't had the guys on the outside to help
yeah,
help out Carson Beck. I feel like that's a big reason he was struggling. I mean,
yeah,
I think they led the like all of college football in drops.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, adding a guy like Zachariah Branch to the outside that kind of brings that explosiveness, I think that's huge for the offense.
Right, yeah, and I think Kirby Smart's going to be on. Kirby Smart's an intense dude, and
Oh, dude, yeah,
he's going to want
he's
this
a
game big time. So I'm going Georgia.
psychopath.
Georgia covering. I'm going to say they're going to win. I'm going to say they're going to cover, and I think the game's going to go over. I think Georgia's going to run the table with them, and yeah. So that concludes how we kind of see this weekend going. Are there any final thoughts you got? Give us another Steele Chambers
Oh, damn it.
nugget of advice for our great youth out there. Give some advice that'll make the young guys better people.
Oh, goodness gracious. I think find something you love, find something you're passionate about, and even if you struggle to find that thing, or if you found it and you're struggling to kind of get into it, just put one foot in front of the other and just keep walking that path. Keep fighting the good fight until you make it. I don't know.
No, no, that's
I'm not
great.
a
That's great. Day by
I'm not Socrates. I'm not a
no, day
philosopher
by
here.
day, day by day. A lot of these young kids, I know when I was young, you look at the big picture. You kind of look at just and when the big picture seems distant, it gets a little depressing. You just gotta look at day by day, take it day by day, and eventually, when you pick your head up, you'll be there. All right, that's it, my brother. And that concludes today's episode of Shaw Sports Talk. Now, you can expect that Steele and I are going to do a lot more of these previews for college football. So go ahead and hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, and like this video. Let's do it.